welcome back to Commander Tax. I'm Adam, and this is our How to Commander Deck series with Glarb, Calamity's Auger. This is part 3 where we're going to make our cuts. If you noticed in the last video, one of the things I confused was power 4 or greater and mana cost 4 or greater. So this reads, you may play lands and cast spells with mana value 4 or greater that has nothing to do with the power of creatures. So a lot of the cards that we're going to be cutting today are creatures that have 4 or greater power or care about 4 or greater power and aren't mana 4 or greater. So the first one that we're going to talk about is Teferi's Time Twist. So Teferi's Time Twist, this is a great blink spell. However, it only works to bring your stuff back at end of turn. So it's not instantaneous. So if you look at Planar Incision, it does the exact same thing, except it does it right then and there. Like, you don't have to wait until the end of the turn. So we don't need another effect just like this when we have so many. So we're just going to go ahead and cut that. The next one we're going to cut is Aftermath Analyst. This is a 2 cost, so again, we're not going to be able to play it off the top, and we have several effects where we can return lands from our graveyard. So this is just one that didn't make the cut. Next up, we have Colossal Majesty. Well, this is, again, the power 4 or greater, so that's why this one's getting cut. Same thing with Garruk's Uprising. Last but not least, Outcaster Trailblazer. This one has to deal with mana value 5 or greater, so it still kind of fits our theme, and I may end up adding this one back, but for now it just doesn't make the cut. A couple that we've added since we talked last, I added Karuga the Macro Sage. So our deck doesn't have 3 and up only, but it has a lot of 3 cost stuff, so if we get this in play, we should hopefully draw at least 2 or 3 cards. So it's just kind of a good card draw and fits our theme a little bit better. Next up, we have, I'm going to have a heck of a time saying this, Hidetsugu and Korea? I don't know. It's an Auger Demon Dragon, and when it enters the battlefield, you draw 3 cards, and then you get to take 2 cards from your hand, including what was already in your hand. You get to put 2 back on top, and then when it dies, you get to do damage to an opponent equal to the mana cost of the top card of your library. If it's an instant or sorcery, you then get to cast it for free. So just kind of a cool Demir thing that you get to do. Next up, we are going to cut God Eternal Ronus. So as you saw in our last video, we cut the other Ronus. So apparently we're just taking all the Ronuses out. We're just going to leave the one Mana Dork. And the reason is this doubles power, but a lot of our creatures are actually like really big, so we don't really need the doubling of power. Like, we're going to be bigger than most of the stuff on the battlefield. So this is just kind of a win harder, so I just don't think we need it. Next up, we have Raw Troubleshooter. So one thing I realized with this is that it has to be something that was just milled. If you didn't just mill it, then it's going to go ahead and not do very much. And as well as that, it's a 3 cost. So we're going to go ahead and cut it. Ruminap Excavator, same thing. We have several of these effects. I could go through them all to show you guys all the different ones we have, but this is just redundancy that we don't need. So we're just going to go ahead and cut it. It's also a 3 cost. Next up is Persist. We have so many recursion pieces that I don't think we need this, so we're just going to cut that. Next up, Eternal Witness. Again, same thing. It's a 3 cost, so it could be blinked, which I do like. So this one might end up making its way back in, but for now we're going to cut it. It's just not making it. Next up, we're going to talk about the ramp stuff. So the first thing is Topiary Stomper. So we don't need a ton of ramp in this, and being a 3 cost, I think that it just, as much as it is like a 4/4 and it's a good creature, it also doesn't allow you to attack until you get 7 lands, so it's just kind of whatever. Next up, we have Song of the Damned, and so this is a great ritual. I think it's really cool. I've not actually seen this played. I think it's a fun card, and I'm going to add it to another deck. It just doesn't work here really well. Next up, Selvala. I do think that this will be able to tap for a lot, but for the most part, because we're not doing the 4 or greater theme, power-wise, just mana-wise, I don't know. It just didn't fit. This one just didn't make the cut, and again, didn't make the cut. And both of these, all these are none of them are 4 or greater. So, maybe we go back through here and I add Invasion of Zendikar, because it's actually a 4 cost, and it gives us 2 lands. So it's a lot like Intis Restoration, but it kind of fits our theme a little bit better. Next up, Emergent Ultimatum. And so we removed this because it is a really cool effect, but it's just, that's all it is. It's a cool effect. It doesn't fit our theme and just doesn't work here very well. So Next up, we have our removal stuff. So what do we remove from removal? Well, we removed all of our counter spells. There was only 3 of them, and because we're not going to be able to do a whole lot of controlling of the board, we still do have Urtai. I just felt like it was just a good place to make a cut. It's if you're gonna do the counters thing, then you probably want to do a lot of them. If you're only gonna do a few of them, you're not going to get enough value to actually probably justify their position in the deck. So we cut Soul Tie Charm because it's a monocolored, and so that's kind of limited use. I'd rather cast something like Assassin's Trophy. It allows me to select any permanent. It doesn't have that condition, so it just doesn't make the cut. Another set of cards that we added here are going to be more untapped stuff that we just missed in our search last time. So Umbral Mantle is really cool because we're going to be able to tap and then untap and then tap and untap. If we do it twice, I mean 6 mana, we still get +4/+4. So that's going to make our commander what, a 6/8. So it's almost like a secondary win con if we can get it on him in some ways that we can hit for commander damage. At the very least, we can make a big guy and swing in. So I like that. And then it's also got the untap so we can surveil multiple times. Intruder Alarm. So I like this. This is kind of a unique and fun card. Creatures don't untap during their controller's untap, so this is going to affect everybody, not just us. And whenever a creature comes into play, untap all creatures. So even when your opponent taps creature or plays a creature, it's going to untap Glarb, our froggy. Yeah, Glarb. And allow us to tap again and surveil even more. So great, cool card, and it works better for us than it is for a lot of other people. All right, so Freed from the Real is an enchantment aura, so you can enchant your commander, and then for only 1 mana, we can untap him. So that's actually really good. It's actually much better than Umbra Mantle. Granted, it doesn't give us the buff. I still really like this. So that's what we added there for the untaps. The next thing we're going to look at is the Emperor of Bones. I didn't talk about how I added this. We talked about how we removed these. But Emperor of Bones, what's cool about him is at the beginning of combat on your turn, you exile up to 1 target creature from a graveyard. It doesn't have to be your graveyard. It can be anybody's graveyard. You pay 2 to adapt to. So what is adapt? Adapt is you add whatever counters. So in this case, 2 +1/+1 counters onto the creature. In this case, whenever you put a 1/1 counter on Emperor of Bones, you put a creature card exiled with him onto the battlefield under your control with a finality counter. It gains haste, and then at end of turn, you exile it. So what's cool about this? Well, in a blink strategy, right, you play him, you adapt him, you play something else, you swing in, you attack, you then blink him, and when he comes back, he doesn't have the counters anymore because the adapt only works once. So once their counters are on him, you can't adapt again. You can't adapt every turn. You can only do it one time. So I really like that for this deck. I just went ahead and added it. So that's what we've cut, and that's what we've added. In our next episode, we'll go through and we'll talk about lands. Right now, I just have 34 basics and 1 MDFC. So we're going to go ahead and add a bunch of multicolored lands, some triomes and different things, and look at how I go about adding lands. So thank you guys for checking out this video, and I'll see you in the next one.